The Forgotten Highway. Chapter 1. The Return to Raven's Peak. As I stepped out of the dusty old car and onto the crumbling asphalt, the familiar scent of pine and damp earth greeted me like an old friend. Raven's Peak hadn't changed much in 4 years. Its quaint charms still clung to every weathered building like a faded photograph. My heart skipped a beat as I gazed upon the small cabin nestled among the pines, the one where my childhood summers had been spent playing under the watchful eyes of my parents and grandparents. But now it stood empty, awaiting my return. The 4 years since leaving had been filled with restless nights, dreams that clawed at reality's edges, and a nagging sense of unfinished business. I'd fled in a flurry of secrets and half-truths, unable to face the whispers and haunted glances. Now, armed with nothing but determination, I stood here alone once more. Emma Shaw, the girl who knew too much. With hands trembling, I grabbed my suitcase as the sky painted itself in shades of crimson and amber. The silence was oppressive, a living thing that wrapped around me like a shroud. Inhaling deeply, I caught the faintest hint of something burning, smoke carried on the evening breeze. Perhaps someone had finally found solace in this loneliness. The cabin creaked under my weight as I stepped across its threshold. Dust devoured every step, and shadows danced along walls bearing silent witness to memories long buried. My grandmother's antique locket hung where she left it, a symbol of the life I once knew. Hours later, with boxes unpacked and dust fallen, I settled onto the worn couch, staring out at the vast wilderness. It was as if time had stood still in this forgotten corner of the world. Raven's Peak remained frozen beneath a veneer of tranquility. Days passed, punctuated by fits and starts. Reconnecting with Beth at the local pub over lukewarm coffee, watching the town's gossip circle through its windows, and forced small talk with friends long since grown distant. They spoke of nothing but local news and their children's triumphs and avoidance that stung like salt in open wounds. My presence had awakened a sense of unease I couldn't grasp. Their eyes hinted at secrets buried beneath laughter and casual conversation. One night, as wind whispered through the trees outside, Beth lingered after closing up the local. "I could see it, Emma. You're different now." Her voice was laced with concern and a hint of fear. "The town feels different when you're around." "The change?" My hand rose to brush back my hair. "It's just nostalgia wearing thin skin." But her expression told me otherwise. There was something she wasn't saying, an unspoken truth. We parted ways as the night deepened. In the days that followed, inexplicable things began to creep into my routine. Tinkering with old tools in the shed, I'd catch glimpses of shadows dotting at the corner of my eye. Tools would vanish, then reappear with no memory of having put them away again. Strange symbols carved into tree trunks along the forest edge. A letter arrived, addressed to the keeper, containing just 3 words, "Turn back now." Whispers of a phantom figure patrolling the wood stole into hushed conversations. I tried to dismiss it all as the town's age, old lore, yet the unease burrowed deeper with each passing day. I found myself avoiding my friends and the familiar rhythms of life. Shadows felt longer than usual, and sounds from the forest sounded more sinister. Then there were dreams. Nightmarish visions where I stumbled through Raven's Peak's empty streets, seeking answers that remained elusive as mist on a windy morning. They left me with mouths agape but no words. That evening, as moonlight sliced the sky, I walked to the local for a solitary drink, my thoughts in turmoil. Ethan, the local's owner, drew his eyebrows at my arrival. "Emma Shaw is back." A hush rippled through the patrons, and heads turned to regard me with suspicion. Only Beth approached, her eyes wide with dread. "I think I know what's going on," she whispered outside under the flickering sign. "It's the Shadow Man. He was never just a story." Ethan handed me a tumbler of amber whiskey as if we were old friends. "Best not speak of it in public." His voice carried an edge, and for the first time since returning, the local felt like home. The next morning, before dawn's pale light, I set out to unravel the mystery. The town square stood still as stone. a tableau from childhood summers. Shadows played beneath the gazebo where laughter had once spilled like water. It was then that I noticed it, a faint symbol carved onto the wood. Ethan had said it was an old tale, a local legend born of superstition and poor sleep. Yet here, nestled in my memory's corner, this mark sat starkly new. Chapter 2. The Strange Occurrences. Days passed, with each discovery drawing me deeper into Raven's Peak's cryptic heart. Tools gone, then found again, the Shadow Man sightings escalated. A series of letters materialized on doorsteps, bearing an anonymous message. Turned from it all. I was convinced they held more truth than small town gossip. I decided to confront them with the evidence gathered in my journal at the local one evening. Ethan's eyebrow arched as he accepted the stack of papers. His response came swiftly, hushed and urgent. Meet me outside at midnight. He waited by his truck, hood up against the gathering mist that often preceded storms. In it a small package lay on the seat. Letters, they began arriving after you came back. Shadows danced at our feet, darkening the road as we spoke in hushed tones. You shouldn't have come here. Tell me what's happening, I demanded. I won't risk my family, Ethan whispered, eyes darting into the gathering gloom. I never meant to leave this place, but it chose me. He drove away suddenly as he arrived, leaving the package on the ground with a final glance and a shiver that transcended the autumn chill. The weight of parchment in hand felt heavy, its texture worn. In the silence that followed, I opened it with trembling hands. The message was simple, turned from it all. My own handwriting. A cold sweat beaded across my palms as I recalled days spent sketching the same words, a childhood fantasy. Yet there they were before me once more. Night had fallen by the time I returned to the cabin. A tapping at the door drew me to the edge of exhaustion. No one called this late. Ethan. The knocking grew insistent. Shadows danced along my path. With each step, the wood groaned as if warning of what lay beyond that threshold. On the porch, a silhouette leaned against the column railing, hoed up like the night before. I approached cautiously and found a note with another message. The Shadow Man is coming. Ethan's features were obscured. A muffled scream drifted from within. I pushed open the creaking door to find him over my shoulder, body splayed at an unnatural angle. Beneath his blood-soaked shirt was a carving. An old tale come to life, or so they said. The Shadow Man. It was time to leave before he took me as well. In that moment, I heard the wood groan with a malevolent intent not of this world. Shadows inched forward, swallowing the cabin's light. Chapter 3. The Darkness in the Woods. As moonlight dwindled beneath the horizon, Ethan bled out across my porch. Turned from it all was scrawled upon his shirt like a cruel epitaph. That night I fled into town, not looking back. The town square pulsed with an otherworldly glow as if beckoning me toward revelation. Underneath the gazebo, once warm with laughter, a Shadow Man stepped forward from shadows. Ethan's face stared back at me from his hoodie. A hooded figure emerged behind him in silhouette, and then another. Eyes of the dead bore down upon us. The air chill further still as they encircled their prey. What are you? I breathed out when my voice would carry farthest. To death or madness. Ethan spoke from behind me. It's not what walks this place, it's who. A figure emerged from the trees, and we ran side by side through the moonless night. Ethan tripped over his own feet in the final stretch. His eyes bulged as something buried him beneath the gazebo, Shadow Man or otherwise. I fell to my knees, screaming into his blood, streak face. In that moment of pure terror, Ethan spoke 2 words before fading. The Keeper. With my friend cold and lifeless, I realized the truth. It was never about the creature, but an occupant within us all. Ethan had been the keeper, passing on to me with his final breaths. I felt them watching from their shadows now as they once did under moonlight. My hand shook to pen new messages as a shiver took hold of my spine. And there they came in the morning's first lights. Shattered figures, and Ethan's name carved into the wood, echoing the locals' legend. His blood stained the gazebo floor beneath it. The shadow man had been a keeper all along. I was now the last one left to keep peaceful to whatever evil had haunted us. A chill crawled up my spine as I recognized the mark from my childhood drawings. My own before madness and death claimed the keeper. Ethan's gazebo body lay still. It was time for me to take on this burden I'd inherited beneath a starless sky.